go ahead and get started on 3 reasons to set up a Facebook page and 3 reasons that you might want to think twice before you do so. My name is Melody Blowbaum. I'm the Internal Communications Editor for the Marketing Communications Department here at JCCC. I'm also one of the administrators for the college's Facebook page. And I tweet, so I do some social media. And Patrick? Yeah.
Hi there, I'm Patrick Lafferty. I'm Assistant Professor of Interactive Media and lead faculty member of the department, and I'm here to talk about 3 reasons why you don't want to be on Facebook.
So, reason number 1, Facebook is where the people are. Jesse James used to say that he robbed banks because that's where the money was. Well, if you want to be where the people are, Facebook is a pretty good place to be. 66% of internet users are social networking site users. Now that might be Facebook, that might be Twitter, that might be YouTube, that might be Pinterest, which who knows, the numbers may have gone up now because Pinterest has really taken off. But we know that 2 out of every 3 people who are using the internet are using some kind of social networking site. 85% of internet users ages 18 to 29 are social networking users. So that's a pretty good target, a pretty good group of people who you want to connect with if you want to connect with students. Increasingly, people are turning online for their news. Once upon a time, everybody got their newspaper delivered in their driveway and read it and talked about it, and that was one of the major ways that they got their news, or they tuned in to local television news, or they listened to the radio. But increasingly, people are going online for their news. Online surpassed newspapers in 2010 as a source for news, and it's caught up with radio. And the internet is the top source for news about restaurants and other local businesses. And JCCC might well be considered a local business, so that's probably one of the places that people are looking for news about JCCC. They'll be looking at our website, which we love, but they also are looking at our Facebook page. We know that just by looking at the data that Facebook provides us about the people who visit our page. And internet ties with newspapers is the top source for news about housing, schools, and jobs. To give you a sense of how important Facebook and social media has become for communicating information about schools, if you go to the Blue Valley School District website, you'll see some of the news about Blue Valley. Once upon a time, if you went to the STARS website, you would see news about Blue Valley, but not so much anymore. They've cut back. They have about 1/4 of the people covering Johnson County who they used to have covering Johnson County, so there just isn't the depth of coverage anymore. If you really want to know what's happening in the Blue Valley School District from the Blue Valley School District's point of view, you should go to their Facebook page, because that's where they post everything. Using Facebook data, 845 million monthly active Facebook users in December 2011, that's their number, and 483 million daily active Facebook users in December 2011.
What is the
Pew Internet Research, and the other is from Facebook. And I have a link too that I can send you if you want a link for that data. Second reason that you should consider establishing a Facebook page for your department or your program is if you want to reach people with a message and get a response from them, you might want to consider using a Facebook page to do that. Our college Facebook page has 5,602 fans. Now, not everybody comes to the page and checks out what's going on every single day. But during spring break, when I suspect most of our students and many other people had somewhat better things to do and other things on their mind, the average post that we made received 850 views. So that meant that 850 people were on the page and had the opportunity to see that. Views is one measure that Facebook provides us. They also provides the people are talking about this, and that's when people like a Facebook post, or when they share a Facebook post, or when they comment on a Facebook post. And I didn't compile the data for that one. What we know is that high interest posts get quick responses in the forms of like and comments. Sometimes I'll post something on our Facebook page and then go back to my news feed, and by the time I've made that click, someone has already liked or commented on it. So you know that you're going to get quick responses when you post on a Facebook page. The third reason is it's quick, it's easy, and it's free. Set up a Facebook page. All you really need is a personal profile, because you have to have your own profile. All pages grow out of people's profiles. You have to have some time, and you have to have a plan. And I'll talk more about the time and the plan once Patrick has convinced you not to do Facebook.
Okay. Let's see here. So one of the, well, actually before I get into that, one of the reasons, clicking things down, eventually I'll get to where I'm going. I'll just go back to that. One of the reasons that you shouldn't be on Facebook, and this is something I teach my students all the time, and it's an adage that you should really take in. If you're not paying for what you're doing on the internet, then you are the product. Okay? Think about that for a second. I'll say it again. If you're not paying for it, you are the product. So, your free site on Facebook.com is actually you offering yourself as a product to anyone that Facebook deems worthy of selling you to. Okay? So whether that's another business, another organization, whatever. That's what you are. And so bear that in mind. And as you're making your decisions from an organizational standpoint, whether you're an individual, a student organization here on campus, a business in the community, that's what's happening there. So if you want to stand alone and be your own entity and not worry about, whether or not Facebook is going to make a decision that your information is too controversial or things of that nature, then you need to be concerned about that. That's a big one right out of the gate. Secondary to that, though, is managing your brand. Why do you want to split your brand? Acura. I just pulled Acura as an example last night. And so this is Acura's Facebook page. And we're signed in as Melody, so we can really wreak some havoc now if we want. But so this is what it looks like. It's very basic. It looks like a Facebook page, right? Actually, that's a good question. How many of you are on Facebook? Okay. So you've seen this before, or something like it. We've got your basic banner here. We've got an ad in the middle. You can sign up for email. Okay. They've got 161,000 people, roughly, that like this, and 3,419 that are talking about it. I can't argue with those numbers. There's a lot of people there talking about it. Okay. But what if I wanted to know about Acura cars? Is this the place to go? No, because there's no, as you can see, this is the extent of the information here. Maybe there's conversation going on about it, but if I really want to know about Acura, I still need to go to Acura.com. Okay? So now we've got, yes, maybe this page will drive some traffic to Acura.com, but why not have all the traffic come to Acura.com in the first place? Why not have this be the point of conversation, right? Which is very possible. Very easy to do with a content management system, something like WordPress or something custom made for Acura. Certainly they've got the money to create their own. So we've got social media links down here at the bottom of the page. You can see the YouTube channel. It's got commercials for the cars. You can talk about it on Twitter, talk about it on Facebook. But what we've done here is split our brand in two and create a management, I don't want to say nightmare. Certainly, again, a company the size of Acura has the resources to have someone manage their Facebook and manage their main site if there were conversation there. But if you're a smaller organization, a student organization on campus, a campus organization of faculty, what have you, you may not have the time or the resources to manage two locales on the internet. So why are you going to split it up into two? If you go with just Facebook, think back to number one, you're the product, not the customer. And secondarily, then you've got multiple fronts to manage, okay? Now, we haven't even touched on the ethical issues of Facebook yet. And there are so many, and this conversation is about three things. We limited ourselves to three things, so I'm going to try and behave and stick to three things. But the big one right now is a case called Frehley v. Facebook, okay? The intricacies of the case really aren't that important. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's important to them. It's important in the big scheme of things, but for our conversation, not that important. Basically, three people and five plaintiffs total, 3 adults, 2 minors, sued because They didn't like how the like system and the sponsored story system of Facebook were working. Again, that's beyond the scope of our conversation at this point. But the point being, what Facebook is arguing in the case, in court, is that as individuals, when you join Facebook, sign up for an account, you are establishing yourself as a public figure. Okay? Now, in terms of privacy and personal protection of information, that's a big deal. That's a legal distinction. Because when you are a public figure, that makes you the same as, say, the mayor of your town. They don't have the same protections that you do as a private citizen. Everything about them is fair game. Okay? So, your personal information that you need to include with Facebook in order to even sign up for a page is now fair game, according to Facebook. Everyone is a celebrity because your friends like you. Okay? That's the legal argument they're making. What does that mean? Well, that means that you have no privacy anymore. Any information you put into Facebook, whether on your page or on your personal profile, is fair game. They can sell it to advertisers. They can track it. They can sell it to other companies. Message from Davey, okay. And that we can, so whoever they want to sell it to, they can. It's theirs for the taking, okay? This is a battle Facebook has been fighting for many years now. You may or may not have heard horror stories, but they're out there of families having put pictures up on Facebook and then go on European vacations and discover that their family photos are billboards in the Czech Republic. That's a pretty disturbing event when you walk down the street and there's your family photo up on the board. So that's been going on because Facebook believes that if you put information into it, it's theirs, or they at least have equal claim to it, okay? So again, think back to your organizational viewpoint. If you're having developmental conversations in Facebook, if you're using Facebook chat to communicate, what about that information? Stunned silence is the correct response. Yes, so you all get 2 points for that. So be very, very leery, scared of using Facebook. It is not the choice you want to make with social media, all due respect to Melody. But, and I understand that it is where the people are. There are, there are millions and millions and millions. Whether or not Facebook is telling the truth about 845 monthly, we'll see about that. But millions of people are there. But those same people, if you build a compelling case and a compelling location for them to come to, will find you. And they can find you not just through Facebook, but through other social media channels like YouTube, like Twitter. Twitter is my preferred. I'm going to be upfront about that. I prefer social media through Twitter. They don't have the same location requirements. You aren't going to another place necessarily when you're using Twitter. With Facebook, they want you in their sandbox. So that's the distinction there. But maybe we'll talk more about that down the road. So anyway, those are the three. Frehley v. Facebook. Don't split your brand, and don't be the object of Facebook's desire. Okay? Back to Melody.
Okay, now that I'm scared.
Good luck with that.
Yeah. Do you have questions?
Yes.
Is Google Plus?
There are no people.
That's it.
There are very few people that get it. Yeah. And the same problems apply with Google that apply to Facebook. I mean, Google has an official policy of do no evil, and they seem to try to apply that to their day-to-day operations, but the same privacy issues apply there. So, and again, to compare that to Twitter, it's a binary situation. You're either open or you're closed. So there isn't none of this gray area that both Google and Facebook love. It's where they thrive, in the gray area.
Any other questions?
Good question.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
If you've signed up on Facebook but haven't really used it,
Mhm.
can you get off of Facebook? Can you
That's a whole, that would take a whole brown bag, but
Oh,
the answer is sort of. Because they really don't want you to leave once you're in there. I actually, full disclosure, I should have said this up front, I haven't had a Facebook account in 2 years because it took me a good 9 months for them to actually delete my account. And so that was actually almost 3 years ago that I began the process of leaving Facebook. There is a process. It is Byzantine. It is not user-friendly. Yes, let's put a nice smiley face on that. Yes, it's not user-friendly. But yes, you can theoretically delete your account. Do they ever actually delete the information off their servers? That's a very good question. Yeah.
What about LinkedIn?
What about LinkedIn? Yes, another good question. You want to, what's your LinkedIn has the same, they've adopted the same strategy that Facebook has. And ever since they had their IPO and became a publicly traded company, their drive towards becoming a behemoth of profit and user information has been, shall we say, disconcerting. Yes, they're going down the dark road instead of the high ground that Google at least pretends to go down. But yeah, so again, probably you should be on LinkedIn. I'm more comfortable with my students being on LinkedIn than I am with them on Facebook. I actively encourage everyone to get off Facebook, because as long as we continue to feed the beast, then we're going to never get rid of the beast. But LinkedIn, if you're already putting that information out to people anyway, generally speaking, it's your resume. You know, you want people to see your resume. So I'm more okay with that. But I wouldn't be using LinkedIn chat or anything of that nature that develops, because again, everything you do there, you're the product.
And he does have a very good point, that on your personal profile, you are the product. I don't know how many of you are on Facebook, and you notice that the ads just seem to be so perfectly tailored to you. Well, that's because that's what advertisers like JCCC, because we do advertise on Facebook, that's what we want. If we have admissions reps who are going out to Blue Valley West High School, then we'll do a Facebook ad, and we will want that ad to appear on the profiles of people who identify as being from Blue Valley West High School. And so they'll see a picture of Casey or a picture of Misty saying, Misty's going to be at your school at 2 o'clock on Wednesday afternoon. That is advertising. That is how it works. The beauty of Facebook ads is that they're highly targeted, and we know that we're reaching people with an interest in what we're doing with our Facebook ads. If we put an ad in the Kansas City Star, we're reaching a whole lot of people who really don't have a whole lot of interest in JCCC. Well, we'd like to think that they have an interest in JCCC, or we wouldn't be placing the ad. But you're doing a shotgun approach if you're doing an ad at on TV or in the newspaper. When you're doing social network, when you're doing actually Google ads, you're being very targeted. And yes, Google ads are also highly targeted, so they're based on what you're searching on. However, on your the ads are really very much a personal profile kind of thing, and there are ways that you can increase your personal privacy on Facebook. We won't go into that, but you can lock down an awful lot of your information. I'm not going into that because this is about Facebook pages, and in fact, we'll go back to the PowerPoint. Facebook basics. Facebook is a social network. There are profiles, there are pages, and there are groups. And a profile is your personal timeline. It's all your stuff. It's your status updates, your photos, and your links. And how do I go back? No, actually, I want to go to the browser.
Oh, I see.
This is, this is my personal profile. That's my home feed, but it's all my stuff. It's all the news that my friends share with me. It's photos from my vacation, yes, and I probably shouldn't have put them up there, the girl in the pig, but I did. It's links that I share. That's your personal profile, and my personal profile is locked down so that the stuff that I post is only seen by my friends. It's not seen by friends of my friends. And yes, Facebook is very Byzantine and you have to go through and click every single link to make sure that you're locked down. But that's my personal profile. The second thing that Facebook has is pages. And pages are places for organizations and businesses and celebrities and so on to broadcast information in an official public manner to people who want to connect with them. It's public and it's usually available to anyone on Facebook, and anyone can like your page. Patrick, who has no association with Facebook whatsoever, even had I not been logged into Facebook, could have accessed that Acura Facebook page. People who are looking for a JCCC, if you know that we're facebook.com/JCCC411, you can look at everything we have posted on our Facebook page, because that's open to the public. And it's important to remember the distinction between profiles and pages and groups, which we'll get to in a minute, because they are different and they're used for different things. This is the college's Facebook page. Anyone can like us. Anyone with a Facebook profile can say, gosh, you know, I want to like you. And why would they want to do that? Well, then they're going to get our news showing up on their news feed. It's a good way for us to reach people when we want them to know that Quivira Road is going to be closed forever and you should just avoid it completely. That's one way to reach our students. Students don't get info list. Students are pretty good about looking at the digital signs. That's one of our easy ways to reach students. And hopefully, professors mentioned in their class that Quivira Road is going to be a nightmare, and so you might want to avoid it. But I'm thinking you probably don't. So if we want to get messages out like that, we can also text, and that's, although right now we have an opt-in text system. So we have a lot of ways that we try to reach people, because we hope that by overlapping the ways that we reach people, that we're going to reach everybody who needs to get the message. And that's important. Our website is great. And if you don't have time to do Facebook, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the kind of time that it takes to manage a Facebook page, I would urge you to work with the web editors and get everything you want on your jccc.edu website. Have it be as beautiful as you want, and then you don't have to mess with it very much afterwards. So I really encourage you to do everything you can, because there's a lot you can do with your pages on the JCCC website. But this is fast. This is a way, you know, for students to connect. We have students who are, student activities have Campus Craze Day coming up soon, and they want folks to sign up for a table. So they came to our page and posted on the college's Facebook page. So not only are they reaching student activities, they're reaching the people who like our page too. And hopefully people will say, oh yeah, I need to sign up for my table at Campus Craze Days. It's fast. We had the news about the women's basketball team winning their first round game and it being a record. We had that up within 20 minutes of the game being over. That's just not possible to do on our website. But we think that's kind of important and fun news for people to know, so we're able to get information up pretty quickly. And we had people liking it, like I said, just about as soon as I posted it, there were people liking the fact that we won our first game. Others can post on your page. Others can mention you. So the NJCAA folks actually posted a photo of one of our players. And again, yes, that photo now lives in Facebook land. But just the same, it's up there for people to see. So it's important to remember with Facebook you're doing a lot of engagement. And pages are sort of the official way to do it. They're open to the public. Anybody can see what you post there. The third part of Facebook is groups. Groups are closed spaces for small groups of people to communicate about shared interests. They have more options for privacy than pages, and members have to be approved by or invited by other members. And then whenever somebody posts in your group, you get a notice that someone's posted in your group. And one of my groups is the Kansas City Star Bylines, because I used to write for the Star. So we hear whenever, I get a message whenever somebody posts some news on that site. However, if you were to search for this particular group on Facebook, you might find it, but you couldn't see anything there because you aren't a member of the group. So groups could be used by classes if there's some kind of exchange you wanted to do, if you wanted to, and I know Patrick is thinking, no, don't do this. But it is a way to communicate with students and have a higher level of privacy than you would on a page.
Can I jump in just for a second? But you see right here on the right sidebar, you've got the sponsored area. So if you're having any sort of confidential conversation, for instance, we work with outside clients. And so if we were having, a client conversation about what we're developing for them in a Facebook group, Facebook would still be examining that, providing that information to all sorts of companies like Microsoft, who owns 20% of Facebook. And then you'll get targeted ads still. So that conversation, though private to your prying eyes, is not private to Facebook and whoever they deem worthy of that information.
I think the caveat I always offer, and I frequently do this, is I'll switch to Twitter because it is one of my favorite modes of communication as well, is the important thing to remember is that it's still the internet. And I'll tell you about some of our students who periodically post some things that they probably shouldn't post. I don't follow every single student the JCCC tweet account does not follow every single student who goes to JCCC. But what I do is I search for JCCC on an ongoing basis. Hootsuite does it for me, so I just log into Hootsuite and look and see what people are saying about JCCC. You may not be aware of this, but parking at JCCC is problematic. Because most of the tweets are about parking, particularly during the first 2 or 3 weeks. But periodically a student will post something that in a post-Columbine, post-Virginia Tech era, you don't take any chances. And so if I see something that concerns me, I send it on to student services. Frequently the students are really upset that JCCC tweet is following them. Well, no, we're not following them. We're just watching for mentions of JCCC on Twitter. And if you don't want us to know what you're tweeting about, don't say JCCC in your tweet. But I think it's important to remember on everything that when you are connected online, you're on the internet, and your promise of privacy is probably pretty minimal.
The best policy is to assume that anything you type into the internet, which is kind of a misnomer anyway, but anything you type into the internet will become public at some point. If you operate from that assumption, then you should be okay.
I think that's a fair thing to say. So, so those are sort of the 3 ways that you interact on Facebook. Your profile, where you post your pictures from your vacation, where you chat with your friends, you wish them a happy birthday. You're very wise and witty because we all are on Facebook. There's the page, which is a place where you might want to have your department or your program be posted, because we know students use Facebook. We know that that's where the students are. That's probably a good way to reach students. Or groups, which is the closed space that you might want to use with your classroom, with your classes and your students. However, you need to remember that it's not private. I mean, it seems private, but if you really want to have a serious discussion with something about a matter that requires privacy, you should probably be doing it face-to-face. So, is that a fair?
So would there be any advantage to doing Facebook for like a course or a, biology 144, and there's, 19 sections of that?
I would say if there are things that everybody shares in biology 144 and you want one central location for it, why not post links? Why not post updates and things like that on a JCCC Biology 144 Facebook page? As long as you understand that that's going to be very public. Or you could do that as a group and understand that it's less public, it's more private, but it's still not completely public. Is that a fair thing to?
I mean, yes, what you said is fair. And I should also say that what Melody has said about, being where the people are and the ease of use of these things is all true. It is very easy. It's just, are we doing the right thing from a leadership standpoint, encouraging people to be operating in that space? That's the question for me. But yes, that's a fair point, that, you know, you could post links very easily that way. Personally, and again, this is my skill set, so it makes more sense for me, why not just create another page on a blog? You know, we have WordPress here on campus, why not use that? And then you eliminate all of these concerns that we're talking about with Facebook, and you keep it local. And it's just as easy to do, you know? Or why not use Twitter? That's what, for my classes, I use Twitter. And so if I have a link that I want to share, I just tweet it, and I've got an account set up for each of my classes, and just, they know to follow that, and it will be right there waiting for them. And again, so you've got the openness of the easy sharing that we're looking for, but you've got the control that you don't get necessarily with Facebook.
I just put all my links and stuff on Angel, so I'm.
There you go.
curious why-
And that's exactly.
Why would I wanna do a Facebook?
Yeah.
Aren't they getting rid of Angel?
Well,
Yes.
yeah, but hopefully we'll have something where we can still do that.
But prospective students cannot see what you do in Angel.
True.
People
Well, I
who,
want to. I don't think.
Why not?
why not?
Well, yeah, because then.
But why is this proprietary information? I mean, and this is getting into a whole much larger, different conversation, but if the idea is for us to spread education, what we're really doing here, when people come and pay their tuition here, we're paying to accreditate them. We're saying, here's your stamp of approval. But the information should be accessible to everyone. That's one of the things I also really like about using Twitter in the classroom. I have people joining my classroom conversations that have nothing to do with my class. So we're getting outside viewpoints that I could have never possibly sought, and they're coming in. So it's more of a education of the masses for the masses.
Well, that might be interesting, but I wouldn't want to post, well, I couldn't post all my PowerPoints and all that kind of stuff. Which is what
No.
I do on
And,
Angel.
but what you might want to do is, one day you're reading the newspaper, or you're reading the online version of the newspaper, and you see an article that absolutely applies to whatever it is that you're teaching. And so you share it via Angel with your class. But why not share that on a biology website and say, look at this is really interesting, and this is impacting, and suddenly you become an expert. And students and alumni and people who just happen to know you or come across your page say, they really know a lot about biology, or they really know a lot about interactive media, or they really know a lot about sports at JCCC. Maybe I should find out more about what they offer at JCCC. Remember, I'm in marketing.
You are.
Yeah.
And I think it's important because, fairly often we hear JCCC is the best kept secret in Johnson County. Well, I think we should be doing what we can to let people know about JCCC, and I think Facebook is one way that we can do that.
I agree, it is one way.
And it's not the only way.
No, and
I-
to your credit, that's not the only way that you do it, so I think that's great too.
So, a couple of things to consider before you say, gosh, I love the idea of having a Facebook page for my program or my department. Ask yourself, how much time do you have? Remember, our websites, basically, you can set those puppies up and you can then never change them again, or only change them occasionally. Social media is a little different. There's the social part of it, and being social takes time. So you need to plan to spend some time every day posting. And it may be that 8 o'clock in the morning, you get your cup of coffee, you sit down at your desk, and you post whatever pearl of wisdom you have planned to post. And you're good for the day, although you're probably going to want to check back a couple of times during the day to see if there were any comments or any questions that you might be able to answer. So before you start, because there are a lot of, I hate to say this, a lot of JCCC Facebook pages get set up in September and then they're just abandoned by October. So think about whether you have the time. And then think about what you want to accomplish. Do you want to engage students or the public? There are lots of ways you can do that. You can post photos from events. You can post links to articles or to information that you think people would want to know about. Typically, once we get close to registration, I do a lot of posting of registration starts here, and then I post links to the calendar. Sometimes people will want to know when spring break starts and why it isn't 2 weeks. Don't we all wish it was? And so we'll post links to the calendar so people know when spring break is. Do you want to be a go-to source for information? The anthropology department I love, because they are always posting the most interesting links to anthropology kinds of things that I hadn't really thought, oh, yeah, I guess that is something that they would be interested in. They're my go-to source for some information. You can draw people to events and programs. The Campus Activities Board posted their Campus Craze information on the JCCC website, or JCCC Facebook page, as well as on their own, because they want people to know about Campus Craze. So it's not the only way that they're going to reach out to students. You'll be seeing the big posters all over campus as we get closer to that event. You'll be seeing it on the digital signs. You'll be reading about it on info lists. We'll probably tweet about it, and it will be on the Facebook page. So it's one more way that you can reach people. And telling people about your accomplishments. I am really proud that JCCC's women's and men's basketball teams both won their first games, particularly the men, because no one thought that they were going to win. Although it was in the Star this morning, we can't count on newspapers doing that. And if we can't count on the newspapers to do it, we know we can't count on the TV and radio to do it either. So when we want to toot our own horn, Facebook is one of the means that we use to tell what we've accomplished. So, if you're sold on this idea of a Facebook page for your program or for your department, here are some things to think about before you click, yes, I'm going to do a Facebook page. First thing is look at other pages, like the one that you plan to create, for ideas on what other people include on your page. If you're dining services, you might want to look and see what other community colleges do, what other community colleges' dining services Facebook pages do. Maybe they post the menu every day. If I were in charge of dining services Facebook page, you can bet that I would be posting the specials every single day, because I think that's really important information for people to have. And Chef Tim does tweet that, and then I dutifully retweet it. But that's one way to that other people might use the page. You can look and see what kinds of links other anthropology departments are using. You can look and see how others publicize Campus Activity Board kinds of activities. Before you start, develop a plan. And this will take some time. What are you going to be posting, so that at 8 o'clock in the morning when you're ready to post an update on your Facebook page, you aren't thinking, what am I going to do, what am I going to do, what am I going to do? Well, you should have a list of the things that you typically are going to do. Reminders of important dates, links to homepage stories from JCCC, because we always have interesting stories on the homepage. Photos of your events, assuming that you have people's permission to post their photo on Facebook. Don't assume that they know when you shoot their picture that they're going to be on Facebook. Always ask. Are you going to invite people to events? Do you have things that are going on that you would like, an open house, those kinds of events? Well, why not do it on Facebook? Put your plan on paper and have enough ideas ready to do 3 updates every week. To me, that would pretty much be the minimum of what you want to do. You need to pull together everything you need to set up the page initially. If you have photos, get JPEGs of them, because you need photos. If you look on our Facebook page right now, we have just the one profile photo for the college, and that's the CAV leaders. With the new timeline, you need a lot more photos. So gather up the photos before you start. Decide what the name of the page will be and consider education as its category. Once you choose a name and once you've chosen a category, it can't be changed. So those are 2 things you have to have thought through. Please use JCCC or Johnson County Community College in your name so that we can find you. There are probably a lot of students in free enterprise groups out there, so it's nice to say JCCC, Students in Free Enterprise. JCCC does I mean, there are lots of JCCCs out there. There's a Japanese Cultural Center in Toronto. There's the Jefferson City Correctional Center in Jefferson City. And it's interesting when you see JCCC and somebody, you know, is going back to jail, and you kind of, oh, yeah, they're really going back to jail because it's not us. So Johnson County Community College is clearer, but it's also a lot longer. Every page has an administrator, at least one administrator. Every page has an owner. If you're the one who set up the page and it was done when you were logged in with your profile and that's how they all start, you're the owner of the page. But you can also have people who are administrators. Administrators are the ones who can post. Students are great page administrators because they spend a lot of time on Facebook, and so they're energetic and enthusiastic, and they certainly bring a different point of view to Facebook than perhaps the more buttoned-down people of the world do. Make sure that they're trustworthy, that you aren't going to have a student who gets mad and deletes all of the other administrators and then goes wild on your page. Because Facebook will work with you kind of on that, but not so much. So it's best to make sure that the students that you have be administrators are trustworthy, and make sure at least one of the administrators is a staff or faculty member. We have fewer problems with students who don't do what they should. What we have more problems with is students who graduate and move on. And then you have to track them down to reclaim your Facebook page. So it's good to make sure somebody who's going to be here for the long haul is also an administrator. And that's it. That's all I have. Do you have questions about Facebook pages or Facebook in general?
Is there a legal issue, like, pick up a class, for example, should you have them sign a waiver to have a picture, have that picture on Facebook? Or is it just a verbal okay, fine?
I would probably get something in writing myself.
The waiver's better, from a legal standpoint.
Just a comment. We just received, I'm from the nursing program, and we just received some brochures in the mail today, a nurse's guide to the use of social media from the National Council of State Board of Nursing. And so it's got, it addresses Facebook, Twitter, and other social media for the professional. And so if you'd like, I'll leave one
Oh, that'd be great.
so that you can look at it. But I think for our professional programs, these social media sites carry, of course, even more responsibility. And so it's kind of new information for us over the last couple of years. We really need to pay attention to. We can't ignore the fact that social media exists and is a major way of communication, but we have to use it responsibly. And so that, that's the question. And how do we do that as college faculty, staff, administrators? How do we teach our students to use that, which is probably one of our responsibilities, that we do educate our students on being responsible users of social media.
And, privacy is a concern for all of us, but when you have, for instance, HIPAA, and you've got a professional privacy requirement, that's even a larger bailiwick to deal with.
Right.
So do you now prevent your students from taking any pictures in class or what do you do now?
Well, interestingly, nationwide, large numbers of nursing schools have developed policies and have also not allowed students to carry cell phones into hospital settings any longer. So there have been a lot of changes in terms of requirements. We don't allow our students to take any photos. They're not allowed to take in the hospital or any kind of clinical setting. They're not allowed to carry their cell phones into those settings any longer. And so that has become, as I said, pretty much a nationwide approach by many schools of nursing. And this brochure, I haven't had a chance to read it all myself yet because we just got them today. But we're establishing guidelines now as a result of all of this. So we're learning a lot. And it is a learning curve for all of us.
Oh, yeah.
I actually have a question for you. Have you, and this may sound very, I don't know what, I'll just ask the question. Have you seen the episode of Grey's Anatomy where they're actually using social media in, okay, what did you think of that? What was your reaction to that? And just for everybody's information, they were tweeting during surgery saying, how do we do procedure XYZ? And we need this, what if it's not working, how do we do that? That sort of information.
Right. this is just my personal opinion. I wouldn't have wanted somebody tweeting during surgery. I would want everyone's full attention to be on the patient.
Sure.
Not having cell phones which are not sterile, and how well are they, I mean, there's all kinds of issues
Sure,
around it.
sure.
The other side of that was, well, they came up with a procedure that helped save the patient. And so ethically, you know, this is an ethical dilemma,
Right.
in my opinion. And so I think the discussion on it is really important. So ethically, yes, it benefited the patient, but there was another side to it as well. And so
Sure.
you can't ignore either side.
Sure. It's all about how you do it.
It really
Right.
is. And
Right.
so that's where everything is changing. And we have to learn and find out what our values are.
Right.
In
And-
a hurry, too.
Right.
Yes.
And that's a very similar situation to what I was talking about with bringing in outside voices into the classroom. You can bring outside expertise into the surgical suite in that instance,
Yes.
but you gotta make sure you do it the right way. Because I don't want somebody setting down a scalpel so they can type,
Exactly.
you know, yeah,
Yes.
so.
Also sounds like too that you're now having a question of knowledge versus information, and it becoming, you know, two
Yes.
different things.
Yes, and is that knowledge accurate, that you're getting on the spur of the moment in the
Right.
operating room from someone that you think comes from a reputable place, but
Mhm.
have you checked it out through other sources? And so you're in this split second making a decision about how to approach this patient based on this one set of information
Right,
coming in,
right.
and no time to pause and think,
Right,
you know.
yeah.
To validate whether
Yes.
that information is.
And in a lot of ways, I think that is the situation with social media, is that no one anticipated that we would be able to communicate back and forth the way we do. And certainly, no one 10 years ago would have thought that we would be doing it with our cell phones.
Right.
That I could shoot a picture of Patrick and post it on my Facebook page and comment about how very, very wrong he is about Facebook.
I did not sign a waiver for that.
And the technology continues to improve and it continues to change, and it's important to keep an eye on how it's being used and the issues around it.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Jim, pregunta.